Got it. Hi.
Hi, lesbians.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to Mastering Your Craft. And guess what today? I have a special guest who is an actress, a veteran. I'm going to let her tell you who she is and what she does. And we're going to talk about acting today. We're going to have a special conversation. This is my fellow actress. Her name is LaVera Sutton. So welcome, LaVera.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. So, okay. For all of the actors and thespians out there. Now, listen, we're on the Zoom call, you guys. What I want is for you to just talk about you. What do you do?
Well, I am an actor. I started like 5th grade, getting on stage and pantomiming Marian Anderson, the opera singer. And so later on, I think it was 7th grade, I was invited to read and perform in Raisin in the Sun, and that got me. Television was always our babysitter. Mom was always gone. So I learned a lot from television, and I wanted to do that. As I'm sure a lot of people had television as their babysitter.
Mhm.
And growing up in Berkeley and Oakland in California, we listened to a lot of radio stations too. It was more mixed. It wasn't so-called urban or hip hop or soul. It was a mix of everybody. So we would sometimes act out, or what is now known as a music video. We would just act out the songs, which is a way of being theatrical as well.
Exactly.
So that's in my soul. And I've done a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I started also doing background work in San Francisco. And that was a lot of fun. And just as I started doing that, a lot of that, then I decided, okay, my daughter grew up and she moved out. So now it's time for me. And it was either go to LA or come here to New York, because I'd never been here before. So I didn't want to grow old 80s with if coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Uh-oh.
So
Nobody does. Oh my gosh.
so I gave away everything and I packed up, moved here. That was a story within itself. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I'm my self-supporter. So I can't just go out on auditions missing work. I signed up with temp agencies, and then I started doing a little bit of plays or readings. Fast forward, I got laid off from my job around 2012, and the world had changed. I couldn't just walk in, because I could easily walk into a temp agencies, and work all these jobs, and take off when I wanted. Honey, the world had changed in 2012, and I went to temp agencies. The offices were closed down,
Oh my
or
gosh,
I had to
yes.
submit, resumes online, and I was living off my savings, and my savings were going down. And I was also a member of New York Women in Film and Television, or NYWIFT as it's known.
Yes.
And I started a pitch fest that they hadn't had in years, but I saw the ones in California. And so I, started that up again. And one of the judges, she happened to come in from LA, and I asked her to be a judge. She was a judge. And then I hadn't seen her in a couple of years. Ran into her at a NYWIFT event, and she says, what are you doing now? And I said, I got laid off. I'm looking for work, and I'm getting back into background acting, and she says, well, let me represent you. And she says, let me be your manager. And I said, okay. So with her connections in LA, she started getting me jobs, as well as me getting jobs through Central Casting, which is a major player in the industry of background actors. And I was doing that. And then she would get me union jobs uh, and I had to get cleared through the union, I believe. Yeah. So after I did my first union job, I got a letter from SAG saying, uh, let me see, you do so many jobs
Right.
on union jobs, then you get a letter from SAG saying, oh, hello, congratulations. And then after so many jobs, you have to join the union.
Yeah.
Well, let's put it this way. You have a choice. And although a lot of people in the background world will say, oh, don't join, my friend joined and now she doesn't get
Mhm.
any work or he doesn't get any work.
Yeah.
No. Th- There's so many myths. And besides that, if you don't think it's worth getting into SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, try it. You don't like it, you can get out. You may not get your membership back, money
Yeah.
back, but get out. But I'm staying with SAG.
Yeah. That's
I have a
good.
Yeah, I have a friend. He works non-union. He did a very prominent commercial. He did not get paid. He had, thank goodness, a famous director directed that commercial. It took him 6 months. After you do a union job, you get paid within 2 weeks, right? He was non-union. They did not pay him. He called, hey, I haven't gotten paid. Oh yeah, we'll send it. We'll send it. We'll send it. Months. He did, I believe, the commercial in March. He didn't get paid until October. And the only way he got his money was he had to call the office of this famous director. That director got so angry, he called that production company, and that production company had that man's money like yesterday. Okay. So that's the danger for me. I don't go to work for my pleasure. I got rent to pay. I'm not in that position where I can just throw away my skills like that, you know? So in fair exchange is no robbery. If you're promised something, you should get it. And with the backing, they don't play that with the union. That's why the union will back you. I can remember I was on a background shoot, and this guy overheard me tell a fellow actor, I got to leave because I've got a union shoot. And the guy overheard me. I whispered, the guy behind me heard me. And he says, oh, well, how did you get work on that show? You must know somebody, you must be connected. And I saw the audition call myself, it was listed publicly. And I turned to him and I said, no, that's not true, you know? And he says, oh, so my friend said you shouldn't join. Ever since she joined the union, she hasn't gotten any work. And I just said, oh, okay. No, you know, follow your heart, what you feel is best for you. I have worked some hard jobs doing background work. It's not, some jobs are great, others, it's hard. You stand on your feet for 15, 20 hours. You can take breaks, many breaks, but when you're union, the production company is more careful on how they treat you, because
True.
if I scream and
True.
yell to the union, hey, the union's like, they're like checking it out. Wait a minute, say what? So it's different when you're in the union.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why there is a union. If you look back in the history of how many actors were mistreated and just really abused, there
Yes.
is a reason for that union.
Oh yeah. It's to keep people from doing any and everything to you just
Yes.
because you're an actor, because
Yeah.
actors, until they become these stars, I guess, actors are at the bottom of the totem pole, basically. They really are, even though they're very important to the project, to the face of the project. But in terms of, because from their point of view, and I mean, I say this just knowing that I'm a producer and director, because you're planning everything. So by the time you bring an actor in, it's like, look, it's kind of ironic because it depending on what you're filming, you can't do your narrative film without the actor. But at the same time, because everything took so much passion as well, like the cameras and the storyboards and all that other kind of stuff, and then the crew themselves, that by the time an actor comes, but then you have, sometimes when you hear actresses talk, like before Me Too, there was a actual documentary that Rosanna Arquette did called Looking for Deborah Winger. And she was in search of the essence really of her, but the essence amongst actresses of how they worked back then. Now, mind you, it was mainly white actresses, but I think there was a Black version that was done, but it was very, very good. Deborah said, just some of the antics that she went through, just being an actress in Hollywood, in terms of just like being told to lose weight, the pressure, like having a producer come to the house and say, here's some protein, here's some weight loss shakes, things like that. Or just, I remember Jennifer Lopez saying that she argued with a particular producer about nudity, just going back and forth because he wanted her to be nude. And it's yeah. And now with SAG, they have that nudity clause.
An intimate, I think they call it intimacy coordinator. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but even then, before then, there was a clause, and it might have evolved because there was this. I have to keep wiping my eye. Anyway, there was this nudity clause where actors would have a right to say yay or nay to so much nudity. Like you couldn't, like they can't be forced or pressured into doing it just because they got hired.
Yeah.
And they signed the contract. So it's like, okay, now we need to know if you're going to have me be nude, the clause is like, you got to specify. It's like all those medical forms. Okay, I signed this, but now we're going to have to sign that and get specific. Let me ask you this. Okay, so I guess you talked about how does one actually get started? Like someone comes from nowhere and it's like, yeah, I'd like to do background acting, but how do they do that? Like,
okay, it's really simple. You sign up with one of the or several background casting agencies. Primarily, I started out with Central Casting. Central Casting goes back to the early days. It was one of the first background casting agencies in the business. They are very reputable. They started in LA. Even Brad Pitt started with Central Casting, and several others. And they're reliable. They know what they're doing. They've been in the business for a long time. Then secondly, there's Grant Wilfie. Grant Wilfie has been in the business for a while too.
Yes, I remember. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Major for a lot of actors, where they background, principal.
Yes.
That was the agency at one time that everybody on the East Coast.
Wow.
That was the agency.
Well, the beauty about Grant Wilfie is you can take a picture with your cell phone and send it to them. You do not need headshots when you're working background. They take your picture for you. It does not cost a penny. Now, there's something called casting networks, and there's also actorsaccess.com and Actors Access, and then castingnetworks.com. And you can sign up for the free version, and there's also a paid version. You don't need to pay. If you want to start out background, doesn't cost you anything but your transportation. Now, Central Casting, for example, they have a Facebook page. They have announcements. For example, Godfather 3, season 3. They're looking for pedestrians, indie, nondescript pedestrians. So, and it's hard to get an appointment, a reservation to go into their office. However, if you look on their Facebook page and you fit their call, what they're asking for, then you submit via a unique email address for that project. And again, you go into their office, they take a picture of you. The same with Grant Wilfie, you can take a picture of yourself. Now, my ex-sister-in-law, she's beautiful, right? She's from Brazil. So she wanted to get involved. So what we did one night, we took her picture on her cell phone, sent it to them at 10 o'clock that night.
Wow.
They sent her a request to show up the next day. So I babysat as she went to work. And I also, if parents want to get their children into the business, if that's your choice, if your child wants to, when they're young, they're not called auditions. When they're infants and babies, they're called go see. And you go see and let the child be a child, and they decide if they want to use your child or not. Now, there are forms you fill out that are free also, and your children under the age of 18 do not need headshots,
Right.
because they grow and change too much, and that the industry knows that would be too much money. So that's why just you can take your child to central casting, you'll fill out forms, and then you also have to send forms to the state. You have to fill out a trust form. All this stuff is free, 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 free. And it kills me how many parents will not share this information with other parents, and especially those of us of color, because the industry seems so exclusionary that a lot of parents are afraid, well, if that child gets the job, then my child won't.
Yes.
And that's not
Yes.
true. That's
That's,
not
oh
true.
my gosh.
And
Yeah, that's
one of the,
unfortunate. That's, I mean, that's how a lot of people think, not only in life, but in business, but but yes, amongst us.
oh yeah,
That's that
yeah,
crab, that's the crab barrel mentality.
yeah,
Where
that's
we
what I
don't
say.
share,
Yeah.
where we don't share information.
Yeah.
So, okay, so look, here's what we're gonna do. I want to talk about, just because we have short time. We have a short
Mhm.
time, and then we'll do a part two. Um,
Okay.
I want to talk about just the state of the industry. Just talk about that right quick, because just just
Oh,
how, just how, and in terms of what you just said, like in terms of the competitiveness and some of the misconceptions that people have, even, whether it be background, whether it be union, what are the misconceptions that people have about doing this?
that you need a lot of money to get started. No, you don't. Your need for money will, propel you into the industry if this is your passion. If this is your passion, go for it, and you will find a way. And some people get mad at me because they say, "Oh, yes, you have to spend $1,000, $500 on headshots." Uh-huh. If you want to, but if you want it bad enough, you'll find a way. Um, that's really important. If this is your passion, you can't get get rid of it. It will haunt you. I thought that because things didn't happen soon enough, I said, okay, well, maybe I was wrong. And so I stopped trying. And then all of a sudden I was haunted immediately with scenes of movies, or every day I'm walking, oh yeah, that could be a scene, and oh yes, this could be a scene. I couldn't sleep. I said, okay, I give up. I'm going back. I'm going back. And then I had peace. And I remember my first speaking part, as I left the set and I was on the bus, I would look out the window and say to everyone, spiritually, I pray you are following your passion. I pray you get your dream job. I pray you are doing exactly what you want to do. There's an inner peace when you follow your passion. You know, if
Mm,
acting is yours, then go for it. If producing is yours, then you go for it. And that's why I moved here to New York, to get into. And I didn't know anyone, I didn't know anything, and I found my way. And just as I started getting a few more roles, then I got a call that I had to take care of my mom.
okay.
So I did a recent project, and during that time, the background of taking care of my mom, getting her to a sitter, I see that now she's more limited. So I had to call my manager and say, you know what, let's pause this for a minute. I have to do other things now. So I'm also script writing I'm collaborating with a friend. She's the writer of books and I script them.
Yeah.
So we have a nice collaboration. So now I will be submitting that.
Oh, that
Her
is
script. Yeah.
wonderful. That
Yeah.
is wonderful. Let me ask you this one quick thing, this one last thing. So doing this at this stage in life, talk about doing that, because a lot of people, the entertainment industry is youth focused. So how, what is the
No,
percentage?
don't you buy that. Let me tell you
Okay,
something. Let me tell you
talk about
something.
it. Talk about it.
Okay. Don't ever buy into that. Don't you dare, because you don't know the next project that needs you, that needs specifically what you have to bring. Don't ever, as a matter of fact, who was it? Shirley Ralph was talking about a Broadway production that she was headed to after she left the Sherry Show. And she says, now in this industry, you never give up, because the woman that she's working with, or the writer, I believe, is 91 years old. Okay. So, and something else I read, this is the only business where you decide when you want to stop acting. You can act until the end of time. There's always, if this is your calling, your passion, there's always there's a reason why. There's a reason why. If that is to get in there and change the industry. Now, I have to say this. When I look at some things that have changed, for the example, a lot of positions, executive positions in major distribution companies, they, for the first time, have people of color as the executive vice president. All I say is, this is George Floyd's blood that has paved the way for this. Because until the world, I get chills, because of what happened to George Floyd, he has changed the world.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it cost his blood, but it caused the world, he shook up the world.
Yeah.
Okay. And because of the ugliness of hate, people have changed. I don't know how sincere or genuine it is, but it has caused change. And I say to people, take advantage of it, because I don't know if it's going to make the world better. Because now you've got other things. Hate is hate, you know. But anyway, George Floyd changed the world.
Yeah.
Majorly. There were riots all over the world, not just
Yes,
the
they were.
US, but
Yeah.
all over the world.
Yeah.
Because of him. And he changed the entertainment industry, because I think a lot of people took a look at themselves and said, you know what? And what people don't realize is what you're doing. Okay, I don't want to get into that. But anyway, yeah, follow your heart, follow your passion. There's always going to be a place for you. There's a reason why you were created. There's a reason why you have this passion. There's a reason why you can't let it go, and it won't let go of you. I remember the first time I took a step towards this industry, because I was Miss Party Girl USA in my other in my other life. Anyway, and I straightened myself up and I decided to go back to school, and I got into script writing class. And so the professor, um, Professor Hutchinson, this was at Laney College. And so he, after the class, after an hour and a half, he had us go in the back room and write. And so I found a little corner for myself. And as I'm writing, let me tell you, I felt and heard these words: it took you long enough to get here.
Oh my gosh.
And I knew then that I would die in this field. For the
Oh,
first time, I still get chills. For the first time, I felt I belonged. This is
wow.
where I belong. And I couldn't make that up. And from that point on, and I remember the first project I made, and this was for the graphics of a television show. How would we change it or make it our own? At that time, Different Strokes was very popular, right? The TV show Different Strokes, you remember?
Mhm. Yes, I
And
do. Oh, yes. Grew up with it.
so what I did was I, cut out construction paper, red background, and then black, like a TV screen. And in the TV screen, I wrote Different Strokes. And then I had three, I think it was three lines going this way, and then one going the opposite way. So it was a different stroke. And I remember that. And it's just, ever since then, when you walk in your path, your calling, it will change your life. It was the first time I had ever experienced a natural high. And I think if most of the world, if we did what we're naturally the positive, when we do what we're supposed to do, it changes you. That was my first natural high, and you can get that for free when you walk your path. And
Wow.
I know this is my calling.
Yeah.
And after I did my first speaking part, I had an unexpected
Now hang on
inter,
for no, hang
okay,
on for a second because we're gonna run out of time.
okay,
But listen, we're gonna do part two. So everyone stay tuned.